124, Facebook UTV 124, Instagram UTV 124, Twitch UTV 124, TikTok UTV_124, and Flow TV channel 124. Remember, UTV TV for you.
I can't
Grocery, and we've had the whatever was going on, the uncertainty about it. Since then there's been a cease and desist, but we need to revisit it because there are new developments, and we start with a current minister and a former one having very different ideas as to what happened under the leadership of Spider Montoot and what this waterfront project was supposed to look like. So we'll start here.
Speculation has been rife as to the nature of a structure proposed to be erected at the waterfront in Grosley along Bay Street. Images and video of steel rods implanted into the waterfront has stirred public interest, with many demanding answers. The proposed site is near the popular food establishment Duke's Place, local bars, and along the beach where fishers lay and mend their nets. MP for Grosley, Kenson Bebe Casimir, says the planned development received permission in March 2021, before the start of his tenure as parliamentary representative.
The approval was given for a building on Bay Street, and the approval date is March. Of course, you could do your research and find out the exact extent to what the approval was. But that is the information that has been given to me. That is the information that is factual. The actual approval it predates me as a parliamentary representative for Grosley.
Moreover, Casimir released a Department of Health approval letter for a 3-story residential structure with the signature of the Chief Medical Officer and a seal of approval stamp from the Development Control Authority, DCA. The MP registers concerns over the renderings that he says were absent from past plans shown to the general public during the campaign season.
I have a lot of concerns because first and foremost we saw renderings just before the election from the previous parliamentary rep, and the renderings that we saw did not include that particular development. And so the information that I've gathered has so far been very enlightening on some of the things that was said, what has been true and what's not true. What I can say is that the St. Lucia Labour Party and myself, we are committed to putting in a proper structure in terms of the Grosley waterfront. What you've been seeing on social media is in the hands of the relevant authorities, including the DCA. They will make certain pronouncements and decisions when the time arises. But I can say to my people that what predates me, I have little control over, but to start considering how we develop in a very sustainable manner that includes all the stakeholders in Grosley.
Meanwhile, leader of opposition business in the Senate and former Minister for Tourism Dominic Fede was seemingly unaware of the exact development referenced by media when pressed about the proposed structure.
I know that we were doing a village tourism. There have been talks recently. I'm not sure which one specifically you're talking about. But there's been, if you consult the plan of my colleague Spider Montoot, you would see that there have been a planned development to redevelop the waterfront of Groseley and to bring about the full potential of Groseley as a tourist destination.
Residents of Groseley took to social media expressing consternation over beach access, perceived gentrification of the community, and the fate of sustainable eco-friendly development near the beachfront. The matter is reportedly in the hands of the Development Control Authority and relevant authorities.
That with Fede saying that there is supposed to be a waterfront redevelopment project under Spider when he was the MP. He says that and says that this is just part of that redevelopment, but that is not the case. And Fede, we're not even going to dwell on that too much because you have found every way to just cover anyone's ass that you think you need to toe the line and to do what you have to do to make people feel okay within the party. So that's what you do. So we're going to take a look at what this Groseley redevelopment project is supposed to look like, and in it just take a look and see whether you see any of the structures happening there, that what's supposed to be happening at in Groseley, whether you see that in those renderings that Spider was proposing as the waterfront Groseley redevelopment project.
Parliamentary Representative for Groseley, Honorable Leonard Spider Montoot, continues to deliver for the people of Groseley and has announced the commencement of the Groseley Waterfront Redevelopment Project. He announced, the Groseley Waterfront Redevelopment Project is about to start. The exciting project will revitalize and enhance the Groseley waterfront and create opportunities for the community to thrive. This project beautifully ties in with the Groseley Village Tourism Project, which involves the uplifting of public spaces, construction of new public facilities, along with the improvement of the facades of residential homes in and around the waterfront. Community entrepreneurs will also be offered duty-free concessions, tax incentives, along with administrative support to establish new businesses such as bars, restaurants, guest houses, water sports, and other entrepreneurial ventures. Parliamentary Representative for Groseley, Honorable Leonard Spider Montoot, continues to deliver for the people of Groseley and has announced the commencement of the Groseley Waterfront Redevelopment Project.
I'm really excited to announce the implementation of the Groseley Waterfront Development Project. This, I'm sure, will change the face of Groseley tremendously and provide much needed entrepreneurial opportunities for the residents of Groseley. First off, we are looking at the jetty, which needs rehabilitation. But quite apart from the repair of the jetty, we are going to upgrade this jetty to ensure that we can accommodate the growth of small and medium-sized craft. The path at Pigeon Point South, where I'm happy to say we are going to have a number of facilities. For example, an outdoor gym, I'm very excited also to mention that we are looking at a playground for children, and that facility is going to be accessible to the children of the community, as we have no real dedicated area for young children to recreate. That will provide a much needed facility for young children and their parents. We are looking at some vending booths in the area, as well as picnic facilities in that same park. Apart from that, we have already secured the pedestrianization of Bay Street. And Bay Street will be the centerpiece of the Groseley Waterfront development, where through the Village Tourism Project, residents of Groseley, young entrepreneurs, will get the facility of duty-free concessions and other incentives to develop shops, restaurants, vending booths and so on along that strip to ensure that we concentrate the entertainment value of Grocery to the waterfront and to get the economic value that can be derived from it for the constituents. So as parliamentary representative, I'm very happy to say that we are about to launch this project full scale. So look out for the Grocery Waterfront Development Project.
Scenario for the renderings and everything else, but clearly that is not the case. We've seen what these things were supposed to look like, and there's nothing on the beach in that way, but still you see what exactly is going on. So we're going to take a look. What really did happen on the beaches and the waterfront in Groseley and Pigeon Point and everything else that they were talking about? Well, no, there was nothing for the vendors. You see nothing for the jetty. There's no jetty redevelopment. Nothing has happened. Spider has looked for himself. We're going to really be talking about Groseley and what really has been done, who's getting anything done, and who's been the benefit of certain things happening and different buildings being constructed. Let's start with the person that it seems Spider, will do anything for. And that's the person he will fight for, that's the person he will kidnap for, that's the person he's going to do everything for. When you put your side woman up or whatever you want to call it, some people call it jabal, but you're building your building to make somebody happy. That is what happened on Pigeon Point under Spider's watch, not anything about redevelopment or any of the vendors. Let's take a look. So we know too that was halted, but that is not all. We didn't see any of the waterfront redevelopment or anything like that. In fact, you saw more things being done for Spider's son as well, and still there's no real discussion on what exactly that is, what is it being used for, the other building that you'll see in a while. And we've had a discussion on it just being put there. No, there's no consultation, nobody knows who is going to get it. And it's a very strange thing. How can you build something and not know what the purpose is? Because if you know the purpose, then you'd have a plan as to, how tall it should be or everything like that. But when asked, when faced with these questions, Spider then didn't have any answer.
The erection of a mystery structure at a playground near the Grizzly beachfront has drawn public scrutiny. A video making the rounds on social media has given rise to allegations of nepotism, but officials say there is nothing nefarious about the building. Sola Jaffred went in search of answers and filed this report.
This area in the Grizzly community was once a recreational park for children. Now residents of Grizzly are unaware of what the fate is for this plot of land. Grizzly residents who are curious about the fate of the land approached our news team in hopes of finding out more information about the edifice. So, News Force set out to find answers. One resident, fueled by grapevine whispers, harbored reservations about the rumored future of the piece of real estate.
As a resident, I don't know, I've heard different rumors. Some people say it might be a bar. Some people say it might be some other structure, but I don't know. I was really hoping they would have something there for children, because the children need a place to recreate. So, but I don't know. I'm just watching to see what will come out of it.
However, not all residents were oblivious. News Force touched base with one man who has been maintaining the park for a number of years, Simon Phillip.
I spoke to the district representative already, Mr. Leonard Spider-Mounted. He told me simple, look, I'm going to take care of you. There's something that I have to do in the park there. So I will not say to you, I am not happy with what is happening there.
The outspoken supporter of the St. Lucia Labour Party describes the park as a place for families to recreate. Philip sought to clarify what the future holds for the playground.
That is something to sell candies and things for children. And there's a second one, if you watch, there's a sip tree there, there's a foundation that they build there. There's the other one going there. And then on the other side, I told him, Mr. Mounted, if you realize when people come to the beach that vehicles have been accessed under the trees where you can relax with your family. So I tell him, if they're on the other side, there's a clear, if you can clear out certain trees and leave there available for vehicles to park and stuff. But then I understood they had some little shops that he told me there'll be some shops coming there and stuff and things.
For some, it might be a simple matter, but for others, mystery abounds. What exactly is this structure behind me? The rumor mill has been rife with speculation of its true intent. So News Force decided to track down Grizzly MP Leonard Spider Montoot.
The structure that is going up is a vending booth. And there are a number of vending booths that will be set up, not only at Pigeon Point, but in these different strategic areas, as part of the thrust to boost entrepreneurship for the residents of Grizzly to begin to take advantage of the benefits of the tourist industry, of course, pending the return to normalcy of that industry.
There was a children's park there before. Is there any move towards creating that sort of atmosphere there once again?
Most definitely. Actually, the intention is, among other things, to have the children's park, to have an outdoor gym, to have facilities for barbecue and picnics, and of course the vending facilities that will be there as well.
As for ownership of the soon-to-be vending booth, the Grizzly MP had this to say.
There's no owner to the structure. At the moment, no one has been assigned any structure. As parliamentary representative, it is my hope that it will be constituents of Grizzly.
Montoot puts the stir surrounding the building down to what he perceives as heightened political mischief in a general election year. However, given the presence of the imposing structure in proximity to one of the island's most pristine beachfronts, some residents of Grizzly continue to speculate, remaining adamant that they are none the wiser.
That's where we are. Still, the MP, a parliamentarian for Grizzly, doesn't know who the owner will be, what exactly it's going to be used for, or anything of the sort, but it's part of the waterfront redevelopment project. And in that space, what was supposed to happen, if you saw the renderings, was something for a playground for children, making sure that they have a conducive environment for play and to be safe and everything of that sort. So, you know, having that building there, it's still up. We don't know what's going on still, but we're seeing more of those constructions happening, and we go back then to what's happening in Grosley. Like I said, I went there earlier this week. I saw some members, some technicians from the Ministry of Physical Planning. They were doing their investigation when I got there, and we saw the clip. They didn't want to speak to me too long. They said they were public servants and they wouldn't do that, but they did speak to me off record, and within hours I knew that there was a cease and desist being given on that construction site. Now, despite that happening, the work continued. The work continued yesterday despite having a cease and desist, and that again shows to me the disrespect. And people say, you know, I wonder why certain people feel emboldened even when they don't have DC approval to build on the beaches, and they say, oh, because SLP got campaign funds. Let's not pretend. Okay, let's just talk straight. We know campaign finance goes to both of the parties, major parties, and we know distinctly too that the Syrians provide both parties with money for campaign finance because they're business people. So n'importe moun qui vient au pouvoir, they know that they can, you know, talk to the person, or they know that they can have those sort of meetings. So let's not pretend that this doesn't happen. What also we need to put out there is that this was given approval in March under a United Workers' Party administration. And what we don't understand, and maybe some of the acts, they're not used to it, that there is something called due diligence and due process. So when you see the DCA come down, like I've said before, and say stop, or the Ministry of Planning will say you cannot do this, this is illegal right now, you cannot continue. We have not seen anything of the sort in the past 5 years. In fact, people have built on the PTOS, people can do whatever they want. We've seen people take all our lands in DSH and they don't care, and they take our roads and they take our beach access routes, and nothing has been done. There has been no protection. So yes, I do like this change where people, agencies, state agencies are taking up the mantle to say stop to the people who think that they can do these things. So it also speaks, though, like I said yesterday, even after the cease and desist, the construction continued. The construction continued, and again, you're seeing something like due process because police had to come there yesterday to stop it.
Yeah.
So you can see the police officers there doing their job as they should. And more than that, it also speaks to the level at which people think they could just usurp whatever powers that be, whatever state agencies have created some guidelines to the way things are set, and will continue to construct anyway. So yes, we're going to keep you updated with that. But for me, it is us as a country realizing that there should be a manner in which we understand that there should be no build zones in certain places like our beaches. And for the people in Grosley who were not consulted once again, who were told that it was going to be some kind of beautification project and all of that, that is not the case. It's not the case, and we need people, we need agencies, we need people that will not be bought, we need people that will not cross out approved and put approved like the Clem Bob, DCHM, and for the PTOR construction. We need people who are working in our best interest. So if it takes the Ministry of Physical Planning, if it takes an actual DCA with actual real professionalism to say stop something, and if it does take the police officers to come on a site when somebody feels that they can just go through and do whatever they want, then I think we're in a good place. We're in a good place where people will not be intimidated, not because you have money, not because you have anything. The state the state is in control, and you cannot continue to do things that go against the law unless you are given approval. So I think this is where we are. I will give you an update as to what is going on there, because I think it is really important. And we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of the land being taken from us. We've seen a lot of things where we seem to have no real stake in what is being done, and I do want to see that end. And that's what we have on that issue for now. We will be right back with more.
I can't stay.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated.
People who are hesitant about taking a vaccine, my advice to you would be to first get information, and credible information. Do as much research as you can to educate yourself about the vaccine, so any qualms or any issues you have about it or with it, you would be able to put it to rest. Also, speak to a professional, see a doctor, someone from the Ministry of Health. They would better be able to allay your fears or ease your worries on taking the vaccine. Now that I'm vaccinated fully, my 2 weeks expired with my second dose, I am really looking forward to things getting back the way they used to. Also, Carnival. I'm looking forward to having the line again.
Get vaccinated.
BJ on the beat.
I make you just a cock it up, back it up, fling it up on me. So heaven in your waistline when you make it roll. Tough gal a road tell me say them a bit too, but none of them no have it like you. When it come to whining skill, gal you know you are the baddest. Them a dancehall queen, but you a dancehall goddess. Them gal a road really need little practice, but everything I need, girl, you have it. Cause you's a professional bumper roller, qualified waistline controller. You a bubble in general, them gal they just a bubbling soldier. You's a professional bumper roller, qualified waistline controller. If them girl they a bubbling boss, you a bubbling CEO. Oh yeah, work 7 days straight feet. All I hope and pray feet.
I can't stay.
So we have received the last batch of results from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, and they've noted that we have 6 new cases of the variants of concern. 3 of the cases are the Alpha variant, and we have noted 3 new Delta cases in country. These are the first Delta variant cases that we have recorded in country.
Significant severity of the COVID-19 disease, 100% more viral load, and 97% more transmissible. And now, the Delta variant has been confirmed here in St. Lucia.
So imagine we were managing a 24 to 70% more transmissible. Now we have a 97% more transmissible with the Delta variant that we are managing now. It is known to cause more severe disease, hospitalization, as well as increased ICU admission and death.
According to health officials, the playbook for the virus is now out the window, given that the virus has evolved and now poses a dangerous threat to not only the elderly and immune compromised, but healthy and unvaccinated individuals.
With the Delta variant, we see a younger age group being affected. We see a younger age group getting complications, and we are already seeing this at the respiratory hospital, where we are getting younger persons. Some of them do not have chronic conditions. Some of them are healthy persons getting affected, and this is the effect of the Delta variant in most of the countries that it is impacting.
The quick-moving virus also has implications for contact tracing efforts by the Ministry of Health.
We do have a definition as to what a contact is when we do contact tracing, and it is based on the contact time with a positive case. Because of the viral load of the Delta variant, it means it takes a shorter time period in which you can become positive if you are in contact with someone who is positive.
The Delta variant has been dubbed the virus of the unvaccinated, given its impact on the cluster.
It affects the unvaccinated persons more severely. This is being seen both in the region and internationally. So we are seeing, for us, we still have 100% unvaccinated persons at our respiratory hospital. The rest of the region is seeing a similar trend.
The vaccines are, however, over 75% effective in preventing severe illness in individuals.
What we have noted in country with the AstraZeneca vaccine that we are using, it has protected. We have not had anyone who is fully vaccinated being hospitalized or died of COVID-19. So this is extremely important for persons to put the importance of vaccination in context.
According to Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, the tried and true public health protocols of mask wearing alone will not cut it.
Just observing the public health measures, it is not enough at the stage that we are. The severity of the Delta variant, like Ms. Jean-Baptiste indicated, the way that we secure our population, we have to get to as high a level of immunization as possible if we are to reduce the impact at this point. We are at the most critical point. A level of sacrifice is needed over the next 2 weeks. We need to break the transmission rate that we are seeing within our communities. So saying you won't take the vaccine and just use your mask is not enough.
The goalpost for population immunity, given the introduction of the Delta variant into St. Lucia, has now moved from 75% to 90% vaccination. The 3 confirmed cases of the Delta variant in country comprises 2 U.S. nationals and 1 St. Lucian, one of whom was fully vaccinated. The Ministry of Health now hurriedly looks to conduct stakeholder consultations planned for next week to discuss, amongst other things, public transportation measures, quarantine measures, and the gnawing issue of mandatory vaccination to gain control of the situation that has placed the island on the verge of critical mass, with currently 30% hospital capacity. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
Now, this is, of course, very, very concerning. We now stand at 6,736 cases. Right now we have over 1,000 active cases and 69 COVID deaths and 28 COVID-related deaths. When you put that together, that's 97 deaths related to COVID and COVID deaths, however you want to call it. 97 people, my apologies, 97 people have succumbed to difficulties with COVID. It's serious, we know this, we understand this. And I think too we understand that for a lot of people who have spoken to me, the fear now is there, and they've decided that they will get vaccinated. When you see all of what is going around, I think some people have changed their minds. And I remember one caller saying that they haven't been and they were not going to, but even after when the newly sworn in Prime Minister, then Philip J. Pierre, spoke, she said, you know, she felt like, you know, people can come together. I saw on Twitter some people saying the same thing. You know, they feel a little guilty now they're going to get vaccinated because they're right. You're right. They feel like, you know what, now is the time to stand up and go and get vaccinated. So for that reason, I think we need to look into vaccination. I know that the Prime Minister has spoken about Cuban vaccines. We already received some Pfizer vaccines and to receive a few more. So with that incoming, and also we have forget yet the 100,000 vials from Radical Investments. We get those yet, even though it's already paid for. You know, we always have to keep that in our mind. We've given $7 million for something we have not received. Put a pin in that. We continue with where we are now. What do we need? How do we do it? We've heard of the press conference that happened earlier today. We'll play a snippet of that soon, but before we do so, let's again listen to the experts. Speak to us. Yesterday we spoke about where we are with this different set of protocols, and it's no longer do this or I'll beat you up sort of thing. Will it work? Who are we as solutions? Will this work, or is this new administration too naive and giving us too much leeway because we cannot control ourselves? So I think the talk of vaccines, and especially when we're talking about the Delta variant and how much more transmissible it is and all of that, we need to understand. I think Dr. Stephen King spoke about that really well.
Lots of questions about the type of vaccine that is out there. It's an mRNA vaccine, and they speak, of course. Well, although the vaccine that we're getting is not an mRNA, which is the AstraZeneca. That's right. But with the Pfizer and the Moderna mRNA vaccines, they're saying that this thing is changing someone's DNA.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't understand that.
It doesn't. I understand that the anti-vax lobby will hold on to almost anything. These particular vaccine platforms, the viral vector vaccine, which is AstraZeneca, Janssen, Sputnik, and them, where there's some DNA in there. These are viruses that are alive but don't replicate, so they don't cause infection, but they have DNA in them. What that DNA does, you get injected, it goes inside, it produces the spike protein. It's DNA just to the spike, which is one protein of the virus. When it produces that spike protein in your body, your cells produce a spike, you develop an immune reaction to it, and you eliminate all remnants of this vaccine from your body from that immune response. The mRNA works very similarly. What the mRNA does is, but it's not in a viral vector, it's in a lipid particle. It gets injected into you. That mRNA does the same thing, causes a cell to produce spike protein that you get an immune response to. So it's just, so now I could give you the spike protein by itself, which is like the Abdallah vaccine or the Sovereign 2. I can give you the Cuban vaccines. I can give you the spike as a subunit, amalgamated with something else to give it make it immunogenic. I can give you that, and you can, but you can repeat the same thing, spike, reaction. I can give you the full vaccine, like the Sinovac, the full virus, dead, put it in you, and you will, again, mount a reaction. So it's just different ways of getting you to react to the proteins that are on the virus. That's all it is. It does not alter your DNA. It does not alter your mRNA. Nothing like that. Those things cannot get into your own DNA and your own mRNA.
So, like I said, we need explanations. A lot of people, especially with the misinformation that we have heard, we've seen with the COVID and the vaccinations and all of that. I think that is necessary, and I think that's what the Prime Minister has said, that there should be an education campaign, and we've called for that during the former administration. It just used to be the strongman tactic and nothing really of letting people understand what exactly is going on, understand the vaccines. And people now can become petty. I know that right now some people are talking and saying, if the command center was still in charge, this wouldn't have happened. Again, the misinformation is coming from so many different places in so many different ways. It's going to take a lot of energy to let people know what exactly is going on. So it's not that the command center isn't in charge of handling COVID anymore, dealing with COVID. It's that a minister is no longer in charge of it. Remember, Minister Dominic Fede was in charge of that, and of course, we saw the schizophrenic sort of leadership that happened there, because clearly he wants, before anything else, to save tourism and make the tourists feel comfortable at the expense of our own lives, and in the meantime, also being in charge of health. You cannot continue to do that. It did not work well. We saw how that worked out. So now that a change has happened where a health professional will be in charge of dealing with the COVID response, I think that was a good change being made by the Prime Minister. When people speak now of why you say you're going to shut down the country, why not doing it now? Once again, for the willfully obtuse, or I don't know if you call that preferential amnesia, you will decide when to pretend to forget. This was being said before there was a vaccine. Now it doesn't make sense they shut down the country. And when they did say shut down the country when there was the vaccine, it was instead shut down the country and let the local economy try to thrive. Let's try to depend on ourselves and make sure that people, you know, people feel like something is happening. But now that the vaccine is there, and I know this is, you know, this is changing, and with the change we have to adapt with the way the protocols are made. Now, I think in all of that, we have had to deal with the COVID protocols in a way that the last administration had it. Some people clearly were not happy with it. I can tell you the people that had their blood out and their locks taken away from them and all kinds of things running, they were not happy about that. And we could see the change in leadership. Maybe that was one of the reasons that people felt they needed that change. So I do believe, listening to the first press conference from the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health earlier today, we need to figure out what exactly is happening and listen, and we'll discuss it.
That we are going to be open and honest, and we are currently reviewing the method of reporting. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Shalmine, you have another question?
Yeah. I understand the government's the plan to educate at this point in time. But given the trend in the rising cases, where for the past couple of days we've had at least 100 cases, is now the time to educate while the cases are rising, or is there not a need to clamp down and while we're doing that to simultaneously educate then? But if we still have people, like you said, at masquerade events in the north and the south, wherever, and we're trying to educate those people who are flouting the protocols, do you think that's going to work? Do we have that much trust in, you know, the conscience of our citizens?
Well, the short answer to that is I do have trust in people. I do have trust, and from my personal experience, I can tell you, I do have trust in people. What I want to say to you is that we are not doctors. The Minister of Health, nor myself, we're nothing near being doctors. We are guided by the science, and we are guided by the advice of the medical people. We are working and we will continue to work closely with the St. Lucia Mental and Dental Association. There is no conflict as existed before between that body and the government. We are speaking to everybody. We're speaking to the doctors, and most of all, we are speaking to the social workers. We are speaking to the people who know what's happening in people's minds. Because there's we speak about, we as a government, we do not want to say things glibly. We want to be guided by information and guided by the science. And each one of us must take responsibility in encouraging our friends, our relatives to wear their masks. That's not only a job of the police. We can, and I'm sure the minister will tell you, when school reopens, we're going to put the education at the schools so children can advise their parents to wear masks and get vaccinated. And I must also say something finally, that the measures we've put in place have not been there for 14 days as yet. These measures, it's going to be 7 days on Saturday? On Friday. These measures have not been placed. So I'm very concerned, but let us be guided by the science, let us be guided by the advice of the people who know, and let us not get involved in unnecessary panic that's not driven by science.
Okay, can I just add to what Prime Minister has said? I just want to remind the people of St. Lucia that as we speak, the Command Center continues to meet. So based on, the Prime Minister said it, we are being guided, we will be guided by the science and information. And as soon as we get the report from the Command Center, as soon as we get the report from this morning's meeting, we will certainly, the process will certainly kick in.
Yes. Hi, Mr. Von. Yes.
And then journalist. Since we're guided by the science, according to CDC data, obesity is a 30% indicator of a more prevalent chance of having a severe illness or death. And anxiety and fear-based disorders are also the second most common, with about a 28% increased chance of severe illness or death. I've heard a lot about vaccines, testing, but I've heard very little about healthy lifestyle, dietary changes, and especially the importance of vitamin D, being that beyond COVID-19, our healthcare facilities have been strained with non-communicable diseases, and that's been a plague on our society forever. Does the government, or what is the government's plan towards dealing with that aspect, which some may say will have a more long-term beneficial effect for our society? And second, a shorter question, you've mentioned that vaccinations will not be mandatory. By any chance, does that extend to the reopening of school strategy for children? Will they be also not mandated to take vaccines, or will that be something that is looked at?
Thank you very much. If I can answer your last question first, we are in discussions with the Ministry of Education, but for the time being, what is happening at the schools are going to be mask wearing. They're going to decide whether it's going to be a situation where you have smaller classes, and whether you have alternative days, and the schools are going to be thoroughly cleaned, deep cleaned. That's the position for now. But as I said, discussions are continuing, and we are going to be able to make a decision after the consultation with the Ministry of Education on what's happening as far as schools are concerned. But for now, there's no plan to have compulsory vaccination for children. There has been no plan at this time. Secondly, and I'm glad you brought a question about healthy lifestyles. The last time I spoke about non-communicable diseases and healthy lifestyles. And this is why we've had in the portfolio a minister for the elderly, where we're going to encourage people and to change their lifestyle, to eat properly, eat differently, to exercise. And I'm very happy you're saying that. And I'd like the press to lead, to help us in this fight against these sorts of bad behaviors when it comes to lifestyle. But I'm very glad you brought it up, and the government is very, very, very interested in promoting healthy lifestyles. You may realize a few Sundays ago, my victory celebration was a walk in my constituency. And then we want to encourage that. I brought people to walk in the constituency. That is to encourage healthy lifestyles. But that's going to be part of our fight, not only against COVID, but our fight for different health situations in St. Lucia.
Yes. This is not a knock. I mean, we remember the issues that the minibus sector had with the last administration regarding the numbers, and this is not a knock on them. But if the medical professionals are right, right now we're facing a clear and present danger with the minibus drivers at full capacity. If the numbers are rising, and although people wear masks, I can assure you that there's not much sanitation of those buses while they make their rotations. And I know you said that there's a meeting, it's going to be under consultation, but then what have the discussions with the minibus sector been so far in the past 2 weeks since you've been in office? Because we do understand this is not a time for us to be having to be deliberating for a long period while people are crowded up in buses and everything. Is there some sort of discussion about recourse or redress for them? Are we looking at probably reducing numbers again and having a balance, some sort of redress so that they don't lose too much like they did over the last 15 months or so?
Well, I can respond to this. The Chief Medical Officer has had one round of consultations with the minibus drivers, and I know there are some issues there, and you are correct. And we have been told that there's another round of consultations to be had. So we are hoping that the Minibus Association will join with us, and we can come to some arrangement based on the advice of the medical fraternity and based on the advice of people who are monitoring the science. But again, our focus is to stem the rapid increase in numbers, and the actions while we are focusing on this. Of course, the earlier question about nutrition and so on, yes, this is part of the whole COVID-19 response. But our most urgent priority now is to do everything that we can to stem the rapid rise in the cases.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions before we wrap up. Yes, Ms. Charlemagne?
Okay, this is the second time for the year that we are over 1,000 active cases. The first time was back in February. And that is what I believe prompted the 7 p.m. curfew, the reinstitution of the state of emergency, a ban on liquor sales and things of the sort. Very rigid measures as compared to what's happening now. And we did see the number of active cases drop to double digits at some point. Why not follow what seemed to have worked back in February?
We have been driven by the science. When the science advises, we will do.
It's okay, so I know it's not you making unilateral decisions, and it is a more technical team providing guidance and advice to the command center for final decisions to be made. Is the science any different?
We're going to be driven by the science. When the science advises us, we're going to do exactly what the science says.
Okay, so just for my clarity purposes as a citizen, not even a journalist at this point, as a citizen, what exactly is the science telling us?
Exactly what we did.
Okay.
But we also have to note, Ms. Charlemagne, that every body which is being consulted, so for instance, the executive of the SLMDA met last night, and they have called a general meeting of their membership today. So we don't want to leave anyone out. We would have hoped that some more alacrity would have been in place in terms of people meeting and giving in their proposals, but that has not happened. And I think, the cases and the testing, and we're very encouraged by that people are being tested, is happening very rapidly. So once all these bodies, because we have the Minibus Association, we have the SLMDA, we have our command center, everyone is meeting and ongoing right now. Once we have all that information, I do believe that if the protocols need to be adjusted, they will. But right now, the protocols which are in place were a guide based on the...
So that is just a snippet of what happened there at the press conference. And I must say, if we're going to be very honest, as we always are on this show, I don't think it was necessary to have that press conference because nothing really came out of it. There was no different protocols because people were still deliberating. The SLMDA, according to Mondi, met last evening, but they've not come up with anything yet, any of the proposals needed to send to the Prime Minister or anything of that sort. So for me, I left more confused than I came in, if we're going to be quite honest. We'll open the lines now, but as we await your calls, there are just a few things that I would like to see here. There are people saying that the Prime Minister saying to people, I trust you, it's almost naive. And if you were to indeed follow the science, there are social sciences like psychology and that sort of thing. And I imagine that if you tell people that, you place your trust in them, that they are the ones, in fact, leading the country in the way that it's going out with COVID, it's a different approach, because when we saw the strong man thing, it didn't work. It did not work. So when people are fatigued and they feel like, they're stuck in a house and everything that, we've gone through that, and yes, we saw a change at the very beginning, but when people get tired, it goes back to the same thing. We need something that is sustainable, something where you don't get a revolving door of cases and the spikes. And let's not pretend either that a few weeks ago people weren't out in the streets, Prime Minister then and the like, in a truck behind bikes, doing all what they're doing to get votes to stay in power, to be in power. So let's just stop with it. That's in my mind, that's what I need. And for those people on Sky FM and elsewhere saying, oh, y'all in power now, look y'all now, what y'all doing now, y'all said we were going to do this. People had a problem, not even in the way that you guys are handling, but in the unfairness of it. There was no equity. Y'all closing people's bars and others were left open. Boat rights can happen, but Shastny can have his. People felt that they were living in a country where they were not a priority and others could do whatever they pleased. So let's not pretend that that was not happening. There is a new way. I think the Prime Minister wants to do things where, you know, this is about all of us and everybody come together and that sort of thing. Some people, and again, you can tell for the mindset. He says about scientists, I understand that there's the medical science where people, the doctors and everything, they're doing their discussions and all of that. But let's not also pretend that we don't know ourselves as a people, that there is a culture, there is a psychology that we have to really think of. Our people, will it really mean anything if you force people to make certain things and then you get some sort of course you'll get a result if people cannot go out, but when they do go out again and when that's done, you know, do you go right back to it? Because I'm tired of the cyclical sort of nature of this, where it goes down and then it goes back up, and then people pretending they didn't have anything to do with it, and then you go back and you shut people down and shut down businesses and do what you have to do on lockdowns, and you know, it's not sustainable. So I do think that whatever has to happen, if it has to be a lockdown, if people are listening, because what I think the Prime Minister is doing is giving us a chance to prove ourselves to ourselves, and if that doesn't work, then you know, different things have to happen. But like I said, I do believe it will really show us who we are, and it is a terrible situation that we're in. People have dying. We have 97 deaths there, 97 too many cases. We've seen what this means, and I think that we could have waited for a press conference where there was actual real statements to make, to be quite honest. Let's take the call. Good
afternoon, Miss Tresha.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, my name is Gaspar Henry.
Hi, sir. How are you?
And I'm fine, thank you. And I run a soup kitchen for the past 15 years called Feed the Poor Ministry.
Yes.
And I have to admit that under the former administration, Feed the Poor Ministry was victimized. A charitable organization faced victimization from many organs of the former administration. However, I have to highlight one person from one entity whom I believe, in my humble view, irrespective of a change in administration, to me, this man, he found a way on every given occasion to accommodate and to support and to help Feed the Poor Ministry. And I'm referring to Mr. Alison Matre of the SSDF. I have to say that. That man, Trisha, he really helped me. And he really supports Feed the Poor Ministry. Whilst other people, because of my political affiliation, they cast out no support for Feed the Poor Ministry. In no form or no shape. But Mr. Alison Matre, I have to go on record. If I do not say that, I wouldn't be able to live in peace with my conscience. Mr. Matre, Alison Matre, the executive director of the SSDF, that man, I tell you, really support my staff and my organization. And I believe that, yes, when government come in, they have to, you know, make changes. But to me, the government, this administration, can find a way to keep Mr. Matre with social programs. Yeah, that's the first part of my contribution. The second part of my contribution is with the COVID. I have to be honest, and I have to say, Alan Chasney, the former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, we have to hold his feet. We have to hold his feet to the fire, because he is the one that was ensuring that hotels stay open. He was the one that was gallivanting all over the place with his crowds, campaigning And the Labour Party, they had to be innovative in creating the panyo. You remember? You remember people were beating their pan in groups of 5 in the balcony? And he is off. Alan Chasney, the former Prime Minister of this country, he is off the protocol for people to go on campaign. Trisha, you remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. And also
Alan
right before
Chasney
Christmas.
is the one that is off on the protocol for people to go out and campaign. So we have to hold his feet to the fire. That's my contribution this afternoon.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. And as we're talking about it, I think for some of the reporters, they were frustrated, I think, with Philip J.P.'s response in that he's saying, follow the science. That's all he would say to Nelsia. By the way, I thought those were great questions. And, these are the things I think you come with. There are reporters, I've been there, where you have to seemingly harass ministers for answers to your questions. But I understand, too, that the ministers, politicians, when they're in that position, it's not like it was a couple months ago under the former administration where you would see the Prime Minister taking front and then the CMO later will just have to agree with whatever the Prime Minister said, because he clearly isn't a health professional, but he would have his own understandings. Remember the people coming from the back or whatever you were saying. Again, no medical basis. So this time, in it being different, and I agree with Philip J. Pierre when he says he's waiting on the science, the SLMDA has to meet, there has to be a proper discussion on what has to happen before he says anything definitively. And for that reason, I thought, okay, if you have to wait, then why do this right now anyway? And when they also say follow the science, we cannot pretend to that there's not much of it that we have really gotten. We're getting the numbers, but stuff about the R rate and the certain indicators, we've had a discussion before that in the UK, if you're going to have any lockdown, if you're going to have a shutdown, there it has to be some certain percentage of the cases that you would need to go into that, and also to get out of it as well. What exactly are we looking for? The specific index, the indicators, we don't have that science outwardly, at least. So until the new administration, and let's not forget they're only there 3 days, they've been ministers officially, technically. So this, I imagine, would take time. So if it does take time, don't let whatever pressure you into having a press conference saying nothing, to be quite honest. And with all of what we've seen here, I just believe that it's a different way of doing things, and for some people it will take some time to get adjusted. And I am not in the business. We've spent, not me, we have been there almost 2 years now of shut down, open, shut down, open, shut down, open. We need a way to deal with this sustainably, something that could last, where we understand what exactly is going on. So an education campaign, I think, is needed. And who's to say, it has to be one or the other? It's not binary. It's not, you educate and, you don't shut down, or all of them can happen at the same time. When we have had already $500 million being spent in the name of COVID, and we're seeing so many of the issues still not being rectified at all, even to this day, this new administration undoubtedly has a lot to deal with what the former administration failed to do. That's where we are, I think. Let's give you the call. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, what I have to say is that reporter that says she's not there as a journalist, but she's there as herself. The Prime Minister answered the question already. He trusts in the people to do what is right. So if she's a reporter, she's there by herself, her own body. You just have to do what is right. Wear your mask. If you take the jab yet, take the jab, and everything will be all right. It's not like when the previous government was there, you heard the government say something, then the Prime Minister, and then the what's the name? The judge. All right, have to say, you just have to follow what them fellas said. But the Prime Minister says you have to trust in the people. You tell the people no mandatory, but take the vaccine wear your mask. So I don't see what she didn't understand in that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, caller. But in respect to, you know, what it takes, I think for a lot of people, and when I was a reporter on the ground and in the field, it wouldn't have, you know, there's no need to do the long questions. That's my own ideology, my own principle when I used to go to these press conferences and even being on the ground asking questions, that it doesn't really take these long, drawn-out questions to show people that you know what you're talking about. You are really speaking to people who do not have a chance to speak to the Prime Minister. So the people that are at home, the people living in their bars, the people who will talk in their living rooms, you're asking the questions for yourself, yes, but for them, and that is, I think it's a noble profession to do that. So when she's asking the questions and she thinks it's not being explained enough, I think it is in her rights, within her profession, to ask again, and to ask again if needs be. So caller, while I understand where you're coming from, I can tell you a different perspective of being on the inside of it, that, you know, it takes a different kind of person to continue to speak and to advocate and to really get the things out from certain ministers, especially when they think they're working on behalf of a country. So people do have the questions that, you know, why not just, you know, close down like what has happened before? I think it's a reasonable question to ask, with all things being considered and the environment that we're in. We've seen 1,000 active cases. We've seen the other 1,000 active cases in February as well. And then when they closed down, it also worked. Only for a while though. Let's not pretend it's only for a while. And I think we've come to the position where if you're going to be changing something, if you really want change, it has to be something where the people come on board willingly and not being beaten into submission. Because if you're going to do that, how long for do you think people will be shut down and then people are out again? And, you know, if they think they're out and they feel they have no responsibility because, you know what, when anything go back, just close us back down. It doesn't work. I don't think it will work for us in the long term economically. It won't make sense. It won't make sense. And for those of the same people seemingly happy that this is happening, that people are dying in COVID, just because you can say, I told you so, just because you can have some political point to prove, you know, I think that too is distasteful. If you really do care about country, I think what we're willing to do in listening to the SLMDA, and let's not even forget too that the SLMDA earlier this year had their own proposal. It was leaked out to us. You probably didn't know. Leaked it, and when the CMO and the Prime Minister saw it, the Prime Minister in fact preempted the CMO and called on Charlie and them and say, you know, the SLMDA was mistaken. The SLMDA was mistaken. The CMO said the same thing. So while the SLMDA might have changed, I hope, where they can come now and you have a Prime Minister willing to wait, and I think that's the right way to do it. You're not in charge. You're not a health expert. Listen to the people who know what they're saying, and for that reason, if they tell you nothing yet, we could have waited for an actual press conference that would say something definitively on how we're going to deal with that, because we haven't had it yet. Stick with the call. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm still waiting to hear what plans the government has to solve the backlog of homicides we have in St. Lucia.
Okay. That's a valid question, Miss. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, caller. Like I said, I think Philip JP also spoke about that in passing today as well, when he says even with the charges being laid against people with masks, that's just adding to already a backlog of cases in the court system. And as for the homicides, we know that crime continues to be an issue. And like I said, this administration, the cabinet really is about 3 days old. So in that, we'll have to wait. And I know there's a mess. There's a huge mess in about all different aspects that we're facing in this country. But I do think that this will take just a little bit of time for people to know what exactly they're dealing with. So that, because it's one thing when you're in opposition and you don't have the papers, you don't have the information in front of you, but these things take time to make an informed decision, to know how to go about it next. That's how I feel. Some people do talk show I haven't missed, but I'm telling you that's where my mind is at. But I think we can wait to see what's going on with the crime situation. And around the world, we're seeing the spike in cases. I think with different countries, you're seeing what has worked, and in all of them, I do believe that even in the dictatorships, you know, it doesn't really work when you clamp down on people, because if we're going to follow the science, like I've said before, the psychology is a science. People cannot stay locked down indefinitely. They cannot stay locked down for long periods. And if they do, what happens then with things like depression? And I know as a country, we don't take mental illness, mental wellness seriously enough. But these things do matter. When we have been bludgeoned and oppressed for 5 years, and, you know, people being put against people, COVID wardens against their own neighbors, like all of these things, it was a very antagonistic atmosphere we experienced some months back. And if there's going to be a change where people are saying education, where people are saying let's come together, where people are saying I trust you, I don't know what's going to happen with that. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have to change it again. But something wasn't working because it didn't work in the past. So Malapuwe, as are you, clearly. And no, we don't have time. We don't have time to waste on this. We don't, clearly, with people dying with this Delta variant that is even more transmissible, and all what we're seeing. Clearly, time is of the essence here, and it has been. And in all of what we've seen, the wastage of funds that had to be dealing with COVID, again, 7 million kitele pour aller pour vaccines, nous pour même joindre, mais nous a payé ces mouna, nous pour any pièces. These things have to be looked into. Because what could we be doing with $7 million under this kind of crisis? It also matters. So even as we go forward with clearly a new way of doing things, we cannot forget where we have come from. Do we have any calls? I think that's it. I want to thank you guys for joining us. As always, we continue to speak with honesty here. What we see issues with, we will always say, and we will also give suggestions. So I want to thank you, my co-hosts and callers, for your contributions, and also you watching on television, on the different social media platforms, and of course listening to us on radio. We need to come together on this, and I think in different ways we could be using our own private doctors to really help people, to make people feel more encouraged and safe to take the vaccines. So we await. I think there's going to be another press conference later today after 4 o'clock with the SLMD and others on what to do next. So we await that before we can make any real definitive statements. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow morning at 11, where we can have more of those conversations. But until then, please wear your mask. Please follow the protocols. Please keep the distance. Please follow the curfew. Stay home. Please, let's do that. And let's stay safe together. Take care.